Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of October 2nd to October 8th. I won't have any video game review or movie or TV show review for this week. Something kind of came up and I kind of have to deal with it for this week. So hopefully maybe next week though, but for now we don't have really any of those. I don't have any of those available for this week though. But in any case though, we have 4 stories to cover, including the first teaser trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie that was shown off that premiered yesterday online. I also want to talk about the situation surrounding Overwatch 2 in terms of not the best launch that it had so far when the game launched online and all. I also want to talk about something that CD Projekt seems to be doing, including working on several different projects, and apparently Embracer Groups and I think Aulx and Deus and Aulx and everyone, it seems to be putting out a survey about the interest of maybe the Legend of Kain making a comeback or anything like that. But if you're interested in where I got a source of these information though, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details. It turns out to be, the first one has to do with the developers of Disco Elysium though. Apparently some of the members or some of the folks have left the studio. It has to do with some sort of controversy surrounding it though. I don't know a huge amount of details though, but apparently there's some bit of a controversy and some issues have emerged from the developers of that game though. We also learned that according to, at least for Sony, in terms of PlayStation ports though, they are looking at possibly just doing taking the exclusivity route, in terms of basically meaning that if a game comes out on the PS5, it's going to come out there first before coming to the PC. So it's going to be sort of a 1-year exclusivity though. So it seems as though that seems to be the direction Sony seems to be heading when it comes to, okay, that's my cat jumping aboard though, the PC ports or anything like that. That's different compared to where Microsoft is in regards of basically them doing when they launch a day one on both the Xbox Series S and X and on PC. So obviously Sony's taking a different approach. This might work for Sony, this may or may not, so we'll have to see how this all officially plays out though. We also learned that basically Activision Blizzard is facing another investigation, as it seems to be this has to do with raises, as apparently the union that's representing them saying that the employees have not received their raises or anything like that, or they didn't receive it as part of the deal that they negotiated. So we'll have to see how that turns out though, but it certainly adds another black eye to Activision Blizzard in general though. We also learned that the original voice actor who did Bayonetta, who voiced Bayonetta in Bayonetta 1 and 2, will not be back this time for the upcoming release of Bayonetta 3. So while it is a little bit unfortunate that that voice actress will not be voicing Bayonetta like she did in Bayonetta 1 and 2, it's not necessarily a bad thing for basically, I don't want my cat touching my keyboard though, basically for Bayonetta 3, as so far the voice acting seems to be fine on that one though. So, and I'm looking forward to getting Bayonetta 3, and also hopefully when it comes out later this month. We also learned that the game Killer Queen Black is going to be shutting down on November 30th. They said from what I understand, it has to do with one of the engines that they were working on. So there were certainly some issues with that engine and all, and it's a little bit unfortunate though, and it's sort of the downside to the whole live service type of situation that we see some developers and publishers are desperately trying to, try to really get their own like Fortnite and everything like that, and well, that's not always the case and everything like that. We also learned that Ed Boon, the creator of the Mortal Kombat series, is basically focusing on basically the upcoming Mortal Kombat 30th anniversary, and that if you're hoping to hear the announcement of the next entry in the Mortal Kombat series, that doesn't seem to be the case, at least according to him. He says that the next entry will have its own separate event. So, I mean, yeah, if you were looking forward to hearing maybe surprise us with, you know, Mortal Kombat 12 or something like that, obviously that's going to be disappointing to some, but still, and there's nothing wrong with taking a look back at a series that was controversial and in a way kind of gave birth to the whole ESRB, the Entertainment Software Rating Board situation, though. We also learned that basically Sony is going to continue to make PS4 games moving forward, as there are no plans at this time to do just PS5 at this moment. I will say I'm kind of mixed on this to a certain degree, though. On one hand, that's sort of great for those who are basically still trying to find a PS5 and haven't found one yet, but at the same time, it kind of holds back for those who are hoping to see us make the transition to the actual next generation, where the next game will be specifically on just PS5 and PS5 alone. So I'm kind of mixed on Sony's decision to do this, though. I can understand to some degree with Microsoft because they want to move on from the Xbox One, considering how that went well and all. But for Sony, it seems a little bit, the situation's a little bit different and all that. So it's a little bit awkward on that one, though. We also learned that the UK authorities are setting a March 2023 deadline for their verdict on the Activision Blizzard deal. This is basically going into what they call the Phase 2 era. I still think most likely the deal is probably going to go through. Could there be some sort of negotiable deal that they put out, like something like, hey, we'll let this deal go through, but Call of Duty has to be multi-platform no matter what? That's a possibility, though. And just recently we've heard how the folks who are looking at this from Saudi Arabia to Brazil have given their take, and they're giving the thumbs up and go ahead, though. So I still believe more than likely this deal will probably go through, though. There may be some adjustments to it. That's a possibility, but more than likely this deal will go through. Activision Blizzard will be part of Microsoft no matter what. We also learned that the Outer Worlds could be getting an upgrade for the Xbox Series X and S, though, which is certainly nice because the Outer Worlds was a fun game, though. Although this is from pure Xbox, though, if the Series X and S are getting an upgrade, I'm thinking more than likely we'll see a upgrade for the PS5 as well. So whether or not they offer whether for the PS5 version, whether they offer a free update or not, remains to be seen. Microsoft is known for their smart delivery, so it wouldn't surprise me if we see that for the Xbox Series X and S. And last but not least, there are rumors suggesting that 343 Industry may be switching engines over for the Halo series. So instead of the original in-house engine that they developed, though, they are thinking about using Unreal Engine 5. Now, nothing has been confirmed at this moment. 343 Industry hasn't said anything, let alone Microsoft at this time, though. But I wouldn't completely rule this out entirely, considering the fact that we saw a similar situation with CD Projekt Red at the time when they announced The Witcher 4, when they were announcing that games in development, that they will be using the Unreal Engine 5 rather than their Red engine that used for past Witcher games and Cyberpunk 2077. So I wouldn't completely dismiss this rumor entirely, though. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they could be switching to Unreal Engine 5, but until we hear an official confirmation from both Microsoft and 343 Industry, at this time, I'm going to treat it how it is, which is basically a rumor and all. Okay, with the quick my 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with basically that's my cat. He's sorry about that. He's moving things around, sitting in front of me while I'm filming this and all, so I'm trying to do my best with my cat kind of lying there acting cute and all. You doing okay, Rocky? You doing okay? Or my parents' cat, since I'm taking care of him for a bit, though. All right, anyway, with the quick my 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the series The the Legacy of Kain. Now, there are a lot of people when they see Aulx Montreal, they're famous for series like, say, the Tomb Raider and the Deus Ex, but they've also developed they also helped, I think, develop and maybe, I think, published the Legacy of Kain, which started out back in the 90s, though, with the last entry, from what I understand, was back in 2003. Now, since then, the series kind of remained dormant for quite some time. There was supposedly an entry being worked on, but that got canceled and all, and really, it never was really touched upon for a long time, especially with Square Enix at the time owning Crystal Dynamics in Montreal. But as we all know, Embracer Group bought them out and basically bought Crystal Dynamics and Aulx Montreal from Square Enix, that are now part of this group, though. Well, recently there seems to be a survey that was put out by them that seems to indicate if people are interested in a Legacy of Kain game, or the series making a comeback. In an article published on IGN, it reads that, quote, let's see, there we go. Okay, there we go. It reads, Crystal Dynamics has released a survey asking fans if they would like to see a return to the Legacy of Kain franchise. As reported by Eurogamer, the survey poses several questions that show the Tomb Raider and Deus Ex developer is at least thinking about a potential return for the beloved long-dormant series. The survey asks what console they play on, or if they heard or have played a Legacy of Kain game before, or if they watched someone play the Legacy of Kain, play the games on YouTube or Twitch. Speaking quietly, explicitly, apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, it also asks how fans would feel if a new Legacy of Kain was announced, and if they prefer to see a remake, remaster, reboot, or sequel, and what specific features they would like a new game to include, though. Testing the waters further, the survey asked fans how they feel about the game featuring vampires in general, a concept that's seen recent viral success with the likings of V-Rising and Vampire Survivor. This doesn't confirm that a new Legacy of Kain is on the way, of course, but Crystal Dynamics recently changed ownership as a result of Embracer Group's purchasing it and 2 other studios from Square Enix. The colossal holding company has also made it clear it plans to explore these developers' back catalogs, announcing in May that it sees great potential in making sequels, remasters, and spin-offs from dormant franchise. Legacy of Kain certainly fits the bill, with 2003 Legacy of Kain Defiance being the most recent entry in the franchise. So to see a franchise, or one that has been dormant for a while, could be making a comeback is certainly nice indeed. As for what I would like to see from it, though, I mean, I've never played the games, unfortunately, though, so I never got around to playing them. So I think a remaster and all would definitely be not out of the question, though. I certainly would like to see that, maybe improve some of the controls a little bit, but I mean, we've seen several games get the remaster treatment, like, say, Turok Dinosaur Hunter and Turok 2 Seed of Evils. That saw a remaster. So I would definitely be down with those kind of remasters, though. A sequel would be great. And if they were to bring it to, say, the Nintendo Switch, I certainly would be happy to see that, though. As far as a remake goes, though, while I'm not opposed to the idea of a remake or anything like that, I'm a little concerned with Embracer Group with the remake, especially after we saw what happened with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, handed by, Asprey, if I'm saying the name correctly, though, and how that literally just fell apart at that point, and now we're learning that Saber Interactive is supposedly handling the remaster, and the game is still going to be years away. So I'm a little mixed on the idea of a remaster of Legacy of Kain, though. I'm not against it, but after what happened with the KOTOR remake, though, I have some reservation, though, as I probably would prefer sort of a remaster approach instead, though. So we'll have to wait and see what emerges from this, though. I'm hoping it happens, but again, time will ultimately tell. But overall, it's nice to hear that Embracer Group, along with Crystal Dynamics and Aulx Interactive, is expressing some interest in bringing this series back, though. Hopefully it does come back, though. I'm down with remasters. Remakes or spin-offs would be fine, though. Like I said, remakes somewhat mixed after we saw what happened with KOTOR remake and that situation, though. And maybe if this does well, maybe they'll consider bringing Gex back. I mean, that was like back in the 90s. Maybe they'll consider bringing that series back, indeed, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with an announcement CD Projekt Red has recently made. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at CD Projekt Red and some of the announcements that they made. Now, CD Projekt Red has sort of been in, the news lately, though, and at the time, though, not for a lot of good reasons. While Witcher 3 certainly earned a lot of praises and support in terms of especially how DLCs and content was handled, though, they certainly got a lot of backlash after what happened with Cyberpunk 2077, especially how the game launched back then in 2020, though it was not at exactly a great state. In fact, one of the few versions that were actually good were, say, the Google Stadia version, which sadly that version's going away thanks to Google shutting down Google Stadia, though, and the Xbox Series S version, which for many feels like it was basically what the PS4 and the Xbox One versions should have been when that game launched. And also, CD Projekt Red had to do a whole lot of refunds and everything like that, though, and apologize and all. And basically, they spent almost a year or so putting hot fixes, fixing a lot of things, which put a lot of things like the multiplayer and whatever other expansions outside of the one they wanted to announce really on the back burner at all. Fast forward right now, and Cyberpunk 2077 is in a much better state than it is thanks to the patch 1.6 and Netflix's anime Cyberpunk Edge Runner, which is definitely good. I highly recommend people take a look at that one. To be exact, though. So it seems to be that according to CD Projekt Red, they have more work on what they want to do, and it looks like there are multiple titles that they are working on, to the point that they're opening up a studio here in Boston, Massachusetts, if I'm saying this correctly, though. In an article posted by IGN, it reads that, quote, CD Projekt Red has announced the codename and brief description for 5 new games, including 3 Witcher games, a new Cyberpunk, and a brand new IP. Revealed on Twitter, it marks a major step for the developers in multiple respects, from developing its own IP from scratch to developing multiple full-size games at one time. In a separate release, the company said it's also adding multiplayer to the majority of future projects. This also marks the first time that we've learned the new Witcher trilogy will not be the only new game set in that universe. The first one, the 5 games that they are working on is, quote, Orion, Orion, a code name for our next Cyberpunk game, which will take the Cyberpunk franchise further and continue harnessing the power of this dark future universe. Orion will be developed by a brand new CD Projekt studio set up in the US. Polis, P-O-L-A-R-I-S, a code name for the next installment in the Witcher series of games, which we recently announced was in pre-production. It is the beginning of a new saga. We aim to release 2 more Witcher games after Polis, creating a new AAA RPG trilogy. The full trilogy is intended to be released in a 6-year period. A Canis, C-A-N-I-S-M-A-J-O-R-I-S, a full-fledged Witcher game separate to the new Witcher saga, starring with Polis. It will be developed by an external studio headed by experienced developers who have worked on past Witcher games. It's not currently clear which developer is working on this project. Sirius, if I'm saying the name correctly, though, a code name for the development by the Mossel Flood, if I'm again MOLASSES, set in the Witcher universe and created with supported from CD Projekt Red. It will be different from our past production, offering multiplayer games on top of a single-player experience, including campaign with quests and story. And last but not least, they point out Hadar, Hadar, a codename for a third entry distant IP created from scratch within CD Projekt Red. The project is in the early stage of creative process, which means we are not developing any game yet, but working exclusively on the foundation for this new setting. So basically for me though, I'm both happy and somewhat concerned about this to a certain degree though. Part of me is kind of happy that we are going to see another entry in the Witcher series, but also it does seem that basically that they're moving forward with another entry in the Cyberpunk series, which certainly saw a revival thanks to, as I mentioned, update 1.6 and the Netflix show Cyberpunk Edge Runner. That certainly has sparked interest in the Cyberpunk universe. So it's certainly nice to see that happening, including the fact that they're developing a brand new IP, which I'm kind of curious to see what this new IP is going to be. At the same time, though, I'm also kind of concerned about this, though, basically, because of how Cyberpunk 2077 played out before patch 1.6 and before Edge Runner came out, to be exact. How they were hyping up this game about it and, you know, pushing to be, you need to have the strongest PC rig or anything like that, and how the game and how the debacle of the mess, how that turns out. And the part that worries me is that CD Projekt Red won't learn their lesson from all this, though. Now, I will admit, it's too early to tell. We don't know if that's going to be the case. It's possible they may have learned their lessons from the Cyberpunk 2077 launch, though. So, I mean, a lot could happen between now and when this game comes out, though. But I still can't shake that that concern, because we saw what happened with EA and, you know, with BioWare in terms of how they claimed they learned their lesson following what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, but when Anthem came out, they didn't really, it ended up being just the same mistakes over and over again, although we know how that game played out, to be exact. So I'm a little bit concerned. I'm also a little concerned about them taking on multiple projects and wondering if this is going to stretch them too thin or anything like that. So I'm just worried that this could turn into another Cyberpunk 2077 situation when that game launched, though. But like I said, it's too early to tell at this moment. We'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out, though. So overall, I would say I'm both interested in what they are working on. I'm glad to see that The Witcher and another entry of Cyberpunk is going to happen, and I'm curious to see what their new IP is going to be. But at the same time, I'm worried that they are not going to learn from the mistakes they made with Cyberpunk 2077 when that game originally launched back in 2020, though. I mean, their reputation got hit really hard, and they're going to have to really knock it out of the park and really show that they have learned their lessons from that situation and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with Overwatch 2 and how that did not get off to the best of starts. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Overwatch 2 and how that really did not get off to the best of starts when the game launched, though. Now, the original Overwatch, released back in 2016, around that time, pretty much took the world by storm in a way. It was basically a competitive multiplayer or hero shooter, to be exact, though. And we've had games like that, which also had, I think, Paddling, which followed into a similar approach as well. And we also had, of course, Battleborn, which really came out not at a great time when Overwatch came out, and that one really took over for a lot of people, and there are certainly a lot of folks who enjoyed them. I mean, I remember seeing my nephew play, I think, Overwatch on the Nintendo Switch when that came out a year later after the original one then. So it was sort of interesting when they announced a couple years ago that Overwatch 2 was going to happen, and it was sort of interesting to see what they were going to go with that one. I mean, there were talks about maybe a PvE or something like that, although I don't know if that still exists anymore or not though. Well, recently though, the game has launched, but it did not get off to the best of starts though. It was hit by a DOS attack, which saw a lot of people waiting to see if they were able to get onto the game, to even a controversial decision to add your phone number into it that forced basically Activision Blizzard to kind of scrap that in general though. In the first article from Destructoid, it reads that, quote, typically the launch of any online Blizzard title is met with increasingly long queues or waiting time, strained servers, and clogged login sessions. And as sure as days follows nights, this is to be expected. Unfortunately, yesterday's launch, or the launch of the shooter sequel Overwatch 2, not only had hundreds of thousands of players to contend with, but the server was hit with at least 2 DDoS attacks from a party of hackers. The free-to-play title experienced connected carnage immediately upon launch, with an initial attack concluding with thousand upon thousand players attempting to get back to their world of heroes. As Blizzard developers attempt to steady the ship and reinize, if apologize if I'm not saying that name correctly, the service, it is believed that a second DDoS attack also hit the game, forcing the studio to take the servers offline entirely though. One of the developers wrote on Twitter on October 4th, 2022, saying, quote, "We're steadily making progress on several issues and stability, as well as working through a second DDoS attack. We're all hands on deck and will continue to work throughout the night. Thank you for your patience. We'll share more info as this becomes available though." The Destructoid article says planned DDoS attacks were extremely common several years ago when many sites, games, servers were hit repeatedly on a monthly, weekly, or even daily basis. A DDoS attack is a miraculously performed attempt to overwhelm a service, flooding with so much internet traffic that it essentially collapsed under the weight of incoming and outgoing connection. Given that yesterday's launch represents a major game release from Blizzard, one that would have already been under severe strain, it would have not taken much of a push to tip the sweating servers over and into the brink though. This also came on the heels of them basically saying that they're shutting down the first Overwatch game, which, seeing how Overwatch 2 went and when it launched though, probably wasn't a smart move on Activision Blizzard's part though. Meanwhile, over at GameSpot, they read that supposedly Blizzard owned up to Overwatch 2's rocky start and dropped phone registration requirement for many though. The article from GameSpot reads, quote, Blizzard's long-awaited Overwatch 2 arrived this week, but the launch didn't exactly go to plan. Blizzard had apologized for the launch issues, saying it failed to meet the expectation of players and Blizzard itself. The studio also announced it's removing the phone registration requirement for many and provide an update of what's being done to migrate the servers issues that help players get into matches. In a blog post, Blizzard said millions of people are already playing Overwatch, which signals a strong start for the free-to-play game. However, the launch has not met yours or our expectations. It said though, first, we want to apologize to our players. We expect to launch of Overwatch 2 to go smoothly. We hold ourselves to a higher standards, and we're working hard to resolve the issue you are experiencing. Blizzard said the list of known issues for Overwatch 2 counts a number of issues, but there are a few key problems that Blizzard wanted to address right now. The first is the phone number requirement. Blizzard initially said phone number requirement was part of an effort to combat cheating, but many people complained about it for various reasons. Some prepaid phones did not work. We have made the decision to remove the phone number requirement for the majority of existing Overwatch players, Any Overwatch player with a connected Battle.net account, which includes all players who had played since June 9th, 2021, will not have to provide a phone number to play. It said, "We are working to make this change and expect it to go live on Friday, October 7th. We will update players once it is in effect. Accounts not connected to Battle.net and new accounts must still provide a phone number. As for the server issue and stability, Blizzard said it's making progress here, but the quells, the QUEUES, are expected to continue for the foreseeable future. The quells for Battle.net and the game itself were combined, but going forward, there should only be one quell in all. Players may be seeing their quells number jump around, going from small numbers to larger numbers. This is due to being two quells for players, one through Battle.net and one through the game itself. This process is usually invisible to players, but we are seeing it in real time," Blizzard said. "We have made changes to simplify the process, so players should now only be experiencing one quell before entering the game." Regarding stability, Blizzard recently released a patch for the login experience that has already been shown to increase the reliability of logging in. Blizzard is now working on another server update to help reduce how often players become disconnected when they can manage the game. Finally, the player database is being overloaded, which is cascaded and cause a backup in the login system, which eventually leads to some people being dropped out of the quill or being unable to log in at all. Blizzard says, "We're counting to add nodes to ease the pressure on the player's database. The process of adding more nodes requires a replication of data, which inherently adds pressure to an already stressed system. So we're doing it slowly, not to cause any further disruption as developers and engineers work on these separate issues." So while it's certainly nice to see Blizzard has certainly made some changes to it, I can't help but feel that some of this, I wonder, or should I say, I wonder if they had ran like a stress test to see how many people they can deal with, though. Because if you're using something that requires an always online connection, though, you need to be able to deal with the volume of people that are going to be coming in. And given how popular Overwatch is for a lot of folks, though, you would think that they would at least be somewhat prepared to be exact, though. And as for the phone number requirement, I just think it seems a little bit unnecessary and all. I mean, I'll admit I'm not really an Overwatch player or anything like that, but yeah, this is not a great start for Blizzard, especially with Overwatch 2, though. And this also highlights why I'm not a big fan of, always online or anything like that. I'm not against online functionalities or anything like that, but I'm not a big fan of an always online approach, because we see situations like this that could very easily emerge, though. So we'll see if Blizzard can get their act together with Overwatch 2. They might be, over time, they'll fix a lot of the problems, but yeah, not a great start for them, though. So overall, though, not the best start for Overwatch 2. We'll see if they make any improvements or if the situation gets better or for worse. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, definitely not a good start for Overwatch 2 in general, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one I want to give my thoughts on the first teaser trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie, the one from Illumination and Nintendo. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our my cat's stretching out. We are back with our fourth and final part of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, I want to give my thoughts, as you can tell from the hat that I'm wearing, though, and also the shirt too. My thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie, or the teaser trailer that just recently was dropped yesterday. It was dropped on a Thursday, to be exact. Now, this is a movie that kind of has been in development for 7 years and all that stuff. So when I first heard that Nintendo was teaming up with Illumination, which is known for, the Despicable Me movies to, you know, the Sing and all that. I was kind of curious, but I wasn't really sure if this movie was going to work or not. Obviously, the last time there was a Super Mario Brothers movie, that was the live action one starring the late Bob Hopkins, if I say the name correctly though, and had Dennis Leary. No, not Dennis Leary. I think Dennis Leary. I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly though. That it earned the reputation of being like it was so bad it's good or anything like that, but still, that situation kind of made Nintendo kind of stay away from doing movies or having anything involved with movies based off of video games or anything like that, considering how they were very protective of their IP. So I was kind of curious to see how this whole movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, was going to play out. We saw some, you know, posters here and there of certain characters. We started to hear the casting who was being announced, ranging from Jack Black playing Bowser to Chris Pratt voicing Mario. That kind of caught a lot of people's attention. There were some who weren't either mixed or wasn't really sure about it. And for me, I was having a hard time kind of wrapping my head around this though. So after seeing the trailer though, I will say my expectations for this movie certainly has gone up, as it certainly has shown that this could work. This could technically work and everything like that. The trailer starts off with, you know, Bowser invading what is this like ice penguin like kingdom and all that. You see basically Kermit, the evil Magic Koopa, and all the Koopa Troopers and all, this time armed with spears and helmets. You hear basically Jack Black voicing Bowser, and I have to say, I don't know how Jack Black did it, but he really nailed it when it became Bowser. The voice, just fits perfectly though, so I gotta give props to Jack Black, how he was able to nail that part though. I mean, he basically showed Bowser beating the penguins, looking like he's collecting stars, could be the power stars or anything like that. And then we start flipping over, the scene switches to basically Mario for his first time seeing the Mushroom Kingdom and all. And I will say, in terms of his looks and everything like that, you know, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, I can nitpick in terms of his design and everything like that, being a longtime Nintendo fan and being, you know, of course, a Mario fan and all. But I will say the design, specifically for the movie, though, is certainly not as bad as it looks. Now, obviously, the big one is Chris Pratt voicing Mario, though. And based on what they've heard so far, there have been some mixed response to it. Some are okay with it, some are not. After watching the trailer several times, looking at that scene where Chris Pratt is voicing Mario, I would say it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be or anything like that, but it's certainly no Charles Mantis, you know, the person who has voiced Mario since, you know, Super Mario 64 back in 1996 for the Nintendo 64 and all. But I did not come away disappointed as much as I thought it was going to be though, but I would say it's okay. I mean, Chris Pratt doing Mario, voicing Mario, I thought it's okay. It's not anything revolutionary or anything like that, though. There's only a couple scenes we see, only a couple scenes, lines that we hear, though, so we will have to see how the full movie plays out, though. I mean, it shows him saying Mushroom Kingdom, here we go. I know some people may think that's cheese, that may not be okay with that. I mean, I would like to hear the, you know, here we go, that Mario is known for saying, you know, in the 3D Mario games and all. So he might say that in the movie, he might not. It shows him going to the town, then it shows Nintendo Illumination, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and then they showed with another scene where it looks like Luigi is fleeing from several dry bones chasing him and all. So I will say, presentation-wise with the teaser trailer though, this looks good though. I definitely think they're off to a good start and everything in terms of the presentation though, but Chris Pratt voicing Mario is still, I'm somewhat trying to wrap my head around it to some degree though. I still don't think, I'm sort of somewhat warming up to it though. I mean, yes, I will admit though, no matter how I look at those, Charles Mathis, if I'm saying his name correctly, I apologize if I'm not, will always be Mario. No matter how you look at it though, no matter what though. But I will say, Chris Pratt, this is alright. It's nothing special, it's nothing good or anything like that. It's alright though. I could live with him voicing Mario in the Mario movies. Maybe not in the video games, but in the movies though, this is okay, at least in my book though. And what I'm getting out of it is that I'm sort of getting the vibe of how I felt when I saw the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, you know, Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 that came out this year though, is that this looks like to be, it could end up being one of those movies where, yes, although it's targeted towards a younger audience though, I think older audiences might enjoy it though. I mean, I think they did a great job. I think Paramount and Sega did a great job with Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 though. So I do sort of get that vibe out of it. Others are saying that you kind of get sort of a Wreck-It Ralph, Fix-It, Feel-It vibe to it too, and that certainly isn't a bad thing either though. I would have to see more trailers, you know, to see maybe more than just those scenes and all, to see how this is all going to play out. So my overall takeaway from the Super Mario Bros. Teaser trailer that they showed is this. Expectations are good. I think they're off to a good start with it though. I think it has the potential to be good though. I hope it does very well though. It's going to be very interesting to see how it does at the box office and whether this opens the door to maybe that rumored Donkey Kong movie that we've heard though, to possibly maybe Nintendo exploring other IPs to get another shot, and maybe in, you know, like the movie settings and all that. As for Chris Pratt's voice in Mario, like I said, I don't think it's as awful as some people make it sound like it is though. I think it's okay. It's not anything particularly special. I still think Charles Mathis is Mario himself. His voice and everything just fits that character, but I'm okay with Chris Pratt's voice in Mario. Even though he's not my first pick though, I'm okay with how he has voiced Mario, at least in the Mario movie. So we'll have to see how the movie plays out when it comes out April next year and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts on the possibility of a Legacy of Kain, you know, making a comeback, that the survey that this Bracer Group is doing though? Do you want to see the series make a comeback though? Do you think they should do a sequel to the 2003 Legacy of Kain Defiance though? Do you think there should be remakes or remasters of any of the older games or any spin-offs for that matter? What are your thoughts about CD Projekt Red working on these 4 titles though? Are you glad that they are working on these 4 titles? Or are you looking forward to this new IP or another entry in the Witcher or Cyberpunk 2077 series? Or are you concerned that they are stretching themselves too thin or could make the same mistakes we saw with Cyberpunk 2077 when that launched back in 2020? What are your thoughts about this DOS attack against Overwatch 2? Has this impacted you in any way in terms of playing Overwatch 2 in general though? Have you been able to find better luck playing the game now than when it launched though? Or are you still having a hard time trying to get in to play Overwatch 2 in general? And what are your thoughts about the Super Mario Bros. Movie or the teaser trailer that was shown though? Did you like the teaser trailer in any way though? Were you concerned about Chris Pratt voicing Mario, or are you not concerned at all in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I'll see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!